Today Africa Podcast is a podcast series where we interview African entrepreneurs and professionals and share the stories behind their businesses. In each interview, we ask how they got started, how they grew, and how they run their business today. The stories are inspiring and also provide specific advice and insight into starting a business. By sharing these stories, we want to help others get started.
Welcome to another episode of Today Africa Podcast, and our guest today is an amazing person from Zambia. He is an entrepreneur, an innovator, a business leader. He's an entrepreneur of the first stainless steel stove in Africa, and he is the founder and CEO of AFNON Tech Industry Limited in Zambia. His name is Arnold Nyendwa. You're welcome, Arnold.
Thank you so much for having me, Mecca, and it's a pleasure to be on Today Africa. I'm looking forward to having a great discussion and conversation with you.
Tell us a bit about yourself and what your brand or your company is into.
So, I was born and raised in Zambia. I did my school here. We have grades 1 to 12. I did my school in Zambia. I did also my university in Zambia. I know there's a lot of perception. Most people think like I went somewhere, but obviously I was privileged when I was about 16 to somewhere 22. I did a lot of traveling. Being born in the eastern part of the country, my hometown, okay. I was raised by Christian parents. I go to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm the firstborn of a family of 5, with 4 siblings and one sister, last born. I'm 27 years old. I'll be 28 next month. Currently, I don't live in the capital. I live in the central part of the country because that's where I'm setting up also the largest stove factory in the continent, a stove factory producing gas and electric stoves. So that's where I'm based currently, and that's where I live. My journey started way back, the passion, when I was somewhere around, I'll call myself maybe around 16, when I was almost 2 years to completing my high school. And that's when I discovered I had the interest in terms of design things. I had the abilities to design. So I joined the science fair. It's called JET here in Zambia, Junior Engineers, Technicians, Scientists of Zambia. It's mostly highly present in schools. So you do a competition at school, then you're selected. If you win, you compete with a project, you design a project, you compete in a science project, then you go to obviously to the district level. You have districts here, and you go to a province level, which you call states there in Nigeria, for instance. Then from state level, you do it to the national level, like you compete in international. So it keeps on going like that. So I did my first project, wasn't really an innovation. I did my first research and so on, stop nose bleeding. I did a research on using onion. And I went on to do another project that was around stopping malaria using purple seeds. And I won with those 2, but I never made it to the national, like the whole country competition. Then in 2015, when Zambia was highly hit with load shedding, I discovered that I can do something. We had energy deficit, no supply of power, 8. It went on to 12 hours. I designed a stove, which I called a brazier by then, which would cook, bake, fry, roast, warm, dry, and fry, without using electricity, but you used just charcoal. So you cut trees, you make something that is artificial, you put there. But it wasn't obviously environmentally friendly by then. So that's how I moved from there. That project really went big. It took me to the nationals now, which I had desired, and I won. I became the second best in the whole country. But then I was completing my school. It was in 2015, so I completed my high school in 2015. But before, 7 months down the line, I enrolled. I was in university. But before I went to university, I set up a small factory in my another province called Copper Belt. So we have 10 provinces in Zambia. You can call them states and for an easy explanation. So there's a province which is a mining province. It's called Copper Belt. That's where I was staying by then with my parents. I completed school when I was 18. So I went there and set up a small factory with a certain welder because in school I used to take geometrical mechanical drawing, GMD, and metalwork. So starting from grade 8 until 12th grade. So that's how I completed my work from there, and I started selling those units before I went to uni. 7 months down the line, before I got to university, I got my partnership in South Africa to the exhibitors who had come to Zambia to exhibit my first deal to improve the stores from a welding style to a most advanced style using stainless steel and advanced technology. So by the time I'm enrolling in school, 7 months down the line to start my degree program, I already got my deal out. And every time I close school, I'd fly to South Africa. So my journey began seriously now in South Africa. I closed that business. Every time I'm closing school, I'm going to improve stores in South Africa. I'm going to do my stores, to do research, to do product development. Then obvious things grew. My name became big in the country. I was on TV. I was young. I was 18, 19. I became the face of innovation at that age. I was famous in school. Sometimes I wouldn't be comfortable to come out of my room because everyone knows you in school. And every time you close, you come back, everyone is talking about you. But despite that, obviously, I kept on focusing.
Let's talk about your childhood. I want to know, as a kid, did you envision or thought about becoming an inventor, an entrepreneur, or you had other interests while growing up?
Well, growing up, a lot of things obviously were crossing my mind. A few events I can remember of my childhood is that I was high on football. I used to think like I'll be a footballer. Though people laugh at me, they think I can't play football, but I'm really good at that. I did also athletics in school, so I'll do like 12 reps. So you go through the ground like 12. We started with 7, then you keep on improving. It would go up to 13 laps as far as I can remember. But I did a lot of football, hitting myself a lot barefooted. We played a lot of soccer. So I don't come from a background that is rich, or that is rich. That's an average normal family. So we did like football in the with our friends. Would make up nets, mosquito nets. You put them as you put your grounds. You get some poles. You put them together like that. So it was like that, yeah. Until we grew up at school when you knock off. Sometimes you go late because for 3, 4, 5 hours you'll be playing football with your friends after school. Your uniforms are dirty. I really enjoyed my childhood. Then during the holidays, we'd go and see grandpa and grandma were still alive. We would pluck a lot of mangoes. We would get some. There's there are things that are made like an axe, so you go and use it for to go and get any wood that you can shape into anything. So artistic work. But funny enough, doing the artistic works, I would make like a World Cup because I love football very much. But it's funny today, I don't even watch soccer that much. Yeah, unless if my national soccer team is playing. Yeah, so that's where we're coming from. Then obviously we went to church, did a lot of church lessons, Christian home, and a bit of business. My parents would keep chickens. Yeah, so I would sell. I sold also some ice blocks and water. So my mom also owned a stationery at some point. So I remember doing so many things in my childhood that obvious also probably when you get number one in class, you'd work hard in school, get your number one, and you trouble your mom to have for that to get me a bike. So we did. I did that a lot, getting a bike. I enjoyed doing a bicycle. Yeah. So yeah, that's my childhood.
You are now a business, you are now an entrepreneur, a businessman based in Africa. So, what were the challenges that you faced in the beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur, and how did you overcome them?
Changes in Africa are almost the same everywhere. Uh, you can look at them in the different side of the angle. We can talk about political, but I believe we're learning as a nation. As nations. Uh, but part of it, the very hard part was to create a narrative to convince everyone in this space, more especially the investment space, because the only thing like this can be done in China, it can only be done in America. It was really something very. It's different when I'm setting up a mine. Mines are everywhere. It's different when you're setting up cement. You're putting up drinks, soap. You know, you're processing agricultural products. They know that oh, we farm. They can be processed, but this is a different case. We're talking about a stove. Say, can an African do a stove? Can an African make a stove? So all those things, it had to take a lot. It was easy for the Chinese to adapt and accept me, the people in the UK, because they have been doing that thing for themselves. But coming back home, like I remember when we were studying, I'm like, oh, stoves. So that wood. Where do you put your wood? Where do you put your charcoal? Such. So first of all, it's about perception and mindset, but also obvious. There are always gatekeepers who always don't want certain businesses to be there. You become a disruptor. Obviously, you have to be conscious around your life. You have to be conscious who you deal with. Uh, but overall, challenges are many. Challenges are many, but these are the main ones. Obviously, Africa is still wrestling with the issues of sort of capital. It's a real big issue today because there's so much high presence of foreign direct investment. Even local people, the local government, they believe so much in having foreign people to come and do stuff like this instead of believing in the local people. So also changing that narrative from even the authorities, the people, saying, no, we can do this thing. I think that's also a big challenge, which the barrier which we need to break in our head and say, hey, we can do it as local Africans, as the local people within ourselves. Yeah, we don't have to wait for foreign direct investment to come into the country.
You're not just an entrepreneur, you're a producer, you're producing things. I'm wondering how you're able to finance your your business, your product, the production of your various products. Like you mentioned, you're not just producing steel, you have other products that you people will be producing. So how did you raise fund or capital?
Very interesting question. So firstly, I think it's always important for any entrepreneur to understand the types of financing. Uh, there's obvious a loan financing, one, grant financing, which is money which you can access from development banks or international philanthropy organizations. And the last one, obvious, it's equity, where you sell part of the shares, then there's an investor who comes in, which is a common one, which everyone tries to rush for. So, can you invest in my business? Can you invest in my business? I think those are the major finance. But also, there's a micro financing, which you raise capital probably from family savings, family investments, or certain property that your family or a business that you can run. To micro financing, and you are able to finance your business. It depends on the scale which you want to scale. So to first of all, to answer your question, it's very difficult in times of, but can be done. Not that because it's difficult can be done, but can be done. It's very difficult because the hardware space requires an upfront investment before big investment to the asset comes. Because before you build an asset, and then the asset that makes a hardware product is specific asset. So you design what we call modes to produce that specific product. For instance, a stove, you need to create a mode of the stove can't produce other stove design. It has to just specifically that design. So you need an upfront payment to create that mode and to produce that product before you even take it for market testing. You need to have products. So already, I remember I'll give you an example on the time when we were doing our product development in Asia. We spent, which was even lower, we spent about $1.1 million in terms of investment just to do a product development. In Africa, somebody will put that money up in front. But also, I'm glad I made a lot of connections around the globe with Chinese partners, with a lot of partners across the globe. We we had a lot of support from our. That's where first of all the money came from. Also, the Chinese partners contributed part of the project to see its success, the relationships that we created. Uh, Also, the UK played a very big part for us to be here today. Our friends, obviously. So I came to this because of a lot of support from there. But 80% of our investments, obviously, is coming from the bank. That was just to square up the 20% from my end because the bank will require you to put 30, 20% of your investment, then they can put the other investment. They don't put money where you don't put your money. So that's where we basically first of all put the for instance the financing for the store factory. So without any equity partner, without any government support, without any uh, anybody's support in terms of resources, maybe I'm saying after this process we might now see other supports that might come in from other partners. I believe government has its own way to support, maybe to facilitate transactions faster. Also, that is money because time is money. So I would say that's around what we are doing here. Yeah.
I read an article about you. You talked about your partnership with a Chinese brand. So I want to know what benefit will this Chinese brand bring to your brand, to AFNON, to Zambia as a country, and equally to Africa as a continent.
Okay. I think first of all, before we talk about partnership, be it at an individual level, at a national level, at a continental level, it's good to define what you want. It's good to define what you want on the table, any table you sit to. Because if you do not know what you want, you'll be given anything. And you're able to take anything. When we got to China, got a partnership, that particular partnership, we knew what we wanted. Did we want a joint venture? No. Did we want an equity partner? No. Did we want to own our own assets? Yes. And we were ready to pay for it. And that's what we went. We went. It's good that African nations, even entrepreneurs, define they should know what they want. We should be able to talk and listen to each other on the table. To have that particular stance. Very, very important. Secondly, China is a great partner because China listens. I'm not saying others don't listen, they listen too, but I'm just specifically in this case because you have asked me on the case of China. I can give various, I've dealt with the UK who have been very, very supportive, for instance. I'm not going to talk to people who haven't worked with before, but I'm going to specifically speak to China whom I've worked with. China, they listen what we wanted and they are delivering, they delivered what we listened. In terms of development, change to the company, obvious technological advancement, we're able to catch up with the most advanced tech in the world and also to compete just the way things are happening in China. One, in terms of technological advancement. Second, we are able to produce the quality and be able to reduce on the challenges or energy deficit that is in the country for the nation of Zambia. It's also beneficial for the forex for this country to bring about trade balance to the country. Most of the time we complain about inflation or the foreign of any currency because we don't produce much, we don't export much. We are also talking about creation of jobs. This is a cry for every youth in the continent, any country in Africa. Job opportunities for the youth. for the family to be given an opportunity to be employed. Another opportunities for economic growth and inspiration. We're inspiring other industries to build more, to own assets, such top assets, that they should be able to transform lives of people. We cannot leave this job only to the government. Governments are trying to do their best. Sometimes we say government is not doing enough. The governments are trying, they do roads, they try to do what they are doing, but they need our support. They need us, the private sector, to help cushion these problems. Because some projects we might not require the government to do it. Even private individuals can do it. Because in business also is to understand it's not just all about money. It's what impact are you creating to others. For instance, the stove project, we are creating around 2,500 to 3,000 jobs, just one factory. So you need to begin to understand how best do you impact others, how many lives are you going to touch. Because money, you leave it behind something. Money comes, money goes. We're not the first to make money, we're not the last. So our focus is not about money or how powerful we become. We are looking at what impact, what lives are we going to touch when we still have the time on earth. I think that's what is important. So that's what I'm looking at exactly in terms of the fate of AFNON, the fate of the country and the continent, that is going to also inspire the next generation to move into industrialize. I'll give you a brief history summary. In 1990, Zambia sold off its private assets, most of the government sorry assets, which were owned by the national government by then, which was under one party state. These national assets were privately were sold to private individuals, mostly foreigners. And as of speaking today, no much of Zambians own assets in terms of in the manufacturing space. We want to give rebirth to that glory days. We had uh, those were parastatals owned by the government. We had assembling cars factories. We had batteries. We had sugar. We had factories for bicycles. Zambia was a great successful country, but we lost all that because they couldn't be continue to be managed by government, and they were sold off to private hands mostly. So we want to bring back that glory back. That's why when we went to China, we went on to find other more aspects rather than that to be able to bring back that industrialization spirit, that uh, growth, economic growth that needs to be black owned, Zambian owned. So
How is your business doing today, and what does the future look like?
the business is going on good. We'll be doing our first round breaking uh, of the largest stove factory in March. After a month from now, uh, obviously the whole country that day will be on a standstill. It's the largest factory in the continent. Very great history, a remarkable history. First indigenous hardware industry in Zambia. We'll be doing a groundbreaking in March, and it will be
Okay.
something that will be historical, obviously bringing back hope to the country in terms of industrialization. It will be something that will be very historical, but at the same time bring hope to the country, creating jobs and opportunities. Uh, what is the future looking like? The future is very bright. We're looking at being a, building a conglomerate in the hardware space with also presence in other continents, not only in Zambia. So we are bridging the gap. It's been West bringing things to us. It's now us to take things to the West. They need to import now from us. So that's what we're doing, and we're bridging that gap. We have other assets, as I say, around 10 plus other assets that are pending on the list to be installed. All the largest assets in the continent. We're looking at all that, doing all that, and maybe more. So that's that's what I would say for now.
We would love to know if your product patent.
Yes, there's
Okay.
what we call copyright, industrial
Okay.
designs. Yes, so we have done on industrial designs and the patents and always well and safe.
What are some key lessons that you have learned in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Key lessons, a lot of lessons. But first, the first one, obvious, the trust in God is the most important thing. Trust in God, the entire process. It might take long. So is the darkness before the dawn. Don't bark at any dog that is barking. Don't respond. Um, Believe in yourself, because when you have the vision yourself, the way you're doing today, Africa, I don't know where you're supposed to take it. It's up to you to communicate it to the world how you want it to be done. Because the world don't perceive to enter your mind until it's up to you to tell the whole world how many times you want to tell them, how do you want to tell them, who do you want to reach. And the dream doesn't happen in a day. You need to keep on every day pushing and telling the world. And the world will keep on listening until they accept. Patience, perseverance, and trust in the process, no matter how things go down.
What advice would you give to others, to younger ones who have the mind or the vision to start up their own brand or their own company in future?
Anyone can do it. There is no, I say, there is no one who owns the world, no matter where you come from. There's only one God in heaven who owns the world. Yes, I know there is power, there's authority, there is this, there is that, but no one can stop what God has destined. You can be anything from wherever you come from. I know some people will say, "Oh, I don't have resources." Even me, I didn't have resources. Everyone did have resources. So it's just about, I've been doing this 10 years straight. It only worked after 10 years. So you need to put in your time, you need to put in your energy, put in your best. But anyone can become anything. You can even become better than me. I shouldn't be your scale standard. God is the one who sets standards for people and how far you can go. So there are no limits to this universe. You can do what you want to do. Today, don't sell off your destiny, because how we sell off our destiny as young people is that when I see a person who is doing fine today because he has a big car, then I get intimidated that I can't be better than them, or because they own one or two things. No, you are created different and you are different, and you never leave again because you only have one paper. So even young people who come to me, who talk to me, I tell them, you can actually do better and you can do even more than this. This is actually probably nothing when you focus yourself and do. So you can become anything in this earth. All you need is to dare. And you need to keep on working and working. The more you put in work, the more results will keep on coming. You don't put in work. So God doesn't give you blessings like He gives you blessings like, oh, here on a silver plate. No, you need to put in work. You use your brain, your hands to get what you want. And these things are in people again. That you can't do it on your own. You need collaborations, you need partnerships. If you want to go far, know how to do partnerships. Don't just sit down and say I can do it on my own. It's not true again. Identify also people who are good in areas that you're weak. Identify them, let them tell you where you are. If you can't do accounts, find a person who can do accounts for you instead of you or wanting to know everything to do anything. So it's all about partnerships, collaborations, belief, and pushing every day to get where you're supposed to.
Today Africa Podcast is a podcast series where we interview African entrepreneurs and professionals and share the stories behind their businesses. In each interview, we ask how they got started, how they grew, and how they run their business today. The stories are inspiring and also provide specific advice and insight into starting a business. By sharing these stories, we want to help others get started.